Hello. Well, apparently the government, or Rachel Reeves at any rate, was officially warned that the private school tax raid would harm poorer families. There's a court case going on now questioning the legality of this tax. Rachel Reeves forged ahead with a tax raid on private schools despite being warned by her own civil servants that it would harm poorer families, the High Court has heard. Lord Panic KC, King's Counsel, that means he's a barrister, a higher grade barrister. Lord Panic, representing private schools, said on the first day of a major legal battle against the government's VAT raid that it makes no sense for ministers to claim the policy mostly affects wealthy families. I said this before. She may be too stupid to understand the consequences of that particular piece of policy, but she had civil servants who did warn her. And the civil service is by no means a hotbed of right-wing authoritarianism. In fact, the civil service is well known for being extremely left-wing. Why did she do that? The Labour Party is supposed to be in favour of education, education, education. Remember that famous thing Tony Blair said? Why did she do that then? I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. All right, then Lord Panic cited the evidence which was submitted to the High Court showing a Treasury briefing just days after the general election that a quarter of families set to be hit by the tax were below the average wealth level. 25% of households will fall in the bottom half of the household income distribution. I'm going to be talking about that a bit later on. Lord Panic told the court that by their own evidence, ministers appeared to admit many children at private schools were from less affluent families who were unlikely to be able to afford fee hikes. That's a lot of people, he said. He also said it undermines arguments set out by Ms. Reeves that private school attendance could be used as a measure of wealth. So it doesn't appear to make any rhyme or reason. And in other ways, it's even worse. There's one well-known case, but it can't be the only one, where there were actually no schools nearby who could take this woman's child. She couldn't afford the fee hike, so she had to send her child to a state school. But the state schools were full to bursting. The nearest school possible was a taxi rider, I don't know, something like 20 miles away. So her daughter, so the council then had to pay for a taxi to take this child to the nearest school, and it's going to cost the council £8,000 a year. Now, in what way will that improve anybody's life? The kid spends hours on the road. The council is paying £8,000 they could be putting towards, I don't know what, school meals, salary hike for teachers, teaching assistant, whatever. Nobody has won. In fact, everybody has lost. And that might be an extreme case, but there are others of a similar type. And even if there is schooling available in the area, the schools are overburdened anyway in most areas. They don't need more children pouring in. I mean, if you have a private education, you are not only paying local taxes towards the state education, but you are paying for a private school as well. So you're actually lifting a load off the public services. And the schools now have suddenly been burdened by a lot of children. Of course, a lot of private schools have closed down as well, meaning unemployment. It's not just teachers that staff private schools, is it? There are maintenance workers, there are assistants, there are all sorts of supplementary services, even cooking facilities. Either the school makes meals on the premises or it buys meals from a local caterer. So, there's nowhere in the world that charges VAT on education. So why this government should have taken to that, it seems absolutely incomprehensible. And even worse, is this going to fetch a gold mine in taxes? No, there aren't that many private schools, so it's not going to net anything more than pocket money for the government. I think the giveaway here is the fact that the VAT imposition was put in the middle of the school year. So the autumn term started perfectly normally, and then the next term, the one starting in January, would have the tax. It was an instant tax. It wasn't even one that Reeves said, all right, well, from the next school year, we're going to impose this tax. And it meant that kids in the middle of the year suddenly found themselves with their parents not being able to afford the school for the next term. It's cruel beyond imagining. Of course, really rich parents would just absorb it, if only, or even if they're not that rich, but have enough spare resources, they may be able to absorb it at least until the end of the summer term while they look for another school. The really hard hit ones were the low income families scraping by to give their kids the best education in the area they live. Let's face it, people on low incomes tend to live in poorer areas. So these parents were the sort of people who had a little bit extra, but not enough to buy a swanky house somewhere, or a house in a swanky area rather. So they're putting their little bit extra into the education of their children to lift them out of the situation that they're in. They had ambition. They wanted to invest in the future of their children. In other words, these people were kulaks. So, just like the Soviet government gave vent to its spite on the successful peasants, the ones who'd scrimped and saved so they could buy themselves a cow, so this government was showing the same spite towards the aspirational working class, the ones who scrimped and saved to give their own children the best educational opportunities they could. When I was living in London, I saw a lot of these people, especially in North London, by the way, fairly well off, bourgeoisie, living in quite pricey houses in an area where the state school is pretty good because the families are all of a certain educational level and a certain income. So they got together to make sure that their school cut the mustard. And they were all working hard for the Labour Party, while schools in the very next district were sinks, or still are, sinks of poor education, thieving and lack of English skills. In those days, I had a cleaner who came in once a week, and she had a little boy, and we came back from some teaching we were doing in Germany, and I brought a German backpack. It was sort of unusual at the time. A German backpack as a present for my cleaning lady's child. And it was lovely. It was sort of red and blue and it was all different colours. And it was a really nice backpack. And she remarked to me that she would sell it and buy it to somebody else and buy a treat for her child, because if she sent him to school with that backpack, he'd be beaten up and it would be stolen from him. That's the sort of school that poor kid was going to. You see, and me in my middle class security hadn't even thought of that. And those are the sort of schools in the very next area to where we lived. And a lot of the kids there don't speak English so well either, so that brings down the educational level way down. Well, it's as if those middle class people just don't want the kids of the sort of lady I was talking about getting an education that would equip them to outshine the middle class kids. That's what it looks like to me. The parents in our area were all working very hard for the Labour Party, and the Labour Party were destroying the lives of the working class kids just down the road. I'm just literally just down the road. And if those parents can't afford a house in your area, but can manage enough to pay for a private school, well, that's not on, is it? I saw that so much. I was actually trying to work on a local youth centre at one point, and I got this woman, a pillar of the local church, by the way, who objected to it because she didn't want a load of working class kids coming past her garden. I'm serious. She was worried about them walking past her garden. I suppose because she thought they'd throw McDonald's wrappers into the neatly manicured lawn or whatever. What this government is all about is keeping the working classes in their place. Starmer was asked, who are the working classes? I have the clip here. Let's just play it.
You describe yourself as working class. Sakir, define working class.
No, working class is families that work for their living, earn their money through going out to work every day, not through other means.
Middle classes do that?
Well, working class families have the ordinary hope to get on in life.
I mean, he's obviously all at sea here. He couldn't answer. People who go to work every day and have the ordinary hope to get on in life. He didn't say they have ambitions, did he? Or aspirations, just treading water, probably working in some sort of a state-funded industry and living at the pleasure of the government. What he really meant was the working class are people who know their place. That was it. And that's why Rachel Reeves has done what she has done. When her own civil servants were telling her this would hit the lower income kids, did this give her pause for thought? No, this was exactly what she wanted. The working classes have to know their place, give up hope, give up aspirations, because if there isn't really a working class in this country, we're going to make sure there is one. And then we call them right-wing thugs and dismiss them. Know your place and just let the government push you around. OK, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.